Hello, scholars. My name is Ira McIntosh, and this is Hypothesis. Hey there, everyone, and welcome back to my office. It's time for another episode of Hypothesis, and today's episode could not be more timely. We're talking to a scholar who looks at the transitions into and out of autocracy. And as a US citizen who is living abroad, living outside of the United States, it's very strange watching what is happening in my home country right now, both being part of it and being completely removed from it. Seeing not only how people inside the country are reacting and acting, but also how the rest of the world sees that. The fact that I can't say where I'm from or even open my mouth really without people bringing up the politics of my country. So today's episode is just really helpful because we talk about not only those regime transitions, but we also talk about whether or not we can trust the information we see online, whether it's AI or it's just tailored information, or it's algorithms that seem to be automatic, but are really people pulling the strings that we can't see. The good old don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain attitude algorithm. But we also talk about distraction techniques that dictators use to build their empires. So this is an extremely important episode, and I'm so glad that you are here to join us in this conversation. My guest today is Ana Jovanovic-Harrington, who is a PhD candidate at Dublin City University School of Communications, where she explores media and regime change from democracy to autocracy. Her doctoral work examines media systems in the context of changes to the political system, comparing cases from Eastern and Southeastern Europe. Alongside her research, she teaches digital literacy courses for vulnerable communities, and her broader interests include media trust, political legitimacy, and digital authoritarianism. Outside of academia, she enjoys debating the politics of Eurovision, playing games like Animal Crossing, and spending time with her dog Luna, who paw reviews every article. Everyone, please welcome Ana Jovanovic-Harrington. Now I'm gonna adjust and do that. Okay. We're here. We made it.
We made it.
Woo. So right up at the top, I always like to ask my guests to just tell me a little bit about their journey in academia so far. Like, why did you decide to get a PhD? How did you get here? All of those fun things.
Yeah. So I didn't always dream of getting a PhD, if I'm being honest. I the what I'm finding is that there's a very particular way that education is set up in Bosnia. So we're quite streamlined from, I don't know, the age of like 6 basically or something. So I always knew that I'll go to university because you're always like kind of streamlined, like you are getting to university. I don't know what you're gonna do there, but you're getting there. um, so I always knew that I'll do that, and my parents were always like, "You need to go to university," blah blah blah. So I enrolled into French language and literature, and it was kind of like more of a philosophy degree. Um, I hated it. I absolutely hated it. But then I didn't know what to do with myself because like this was supposed to be my life. I was always supposed to go to university, right? What do I do now? I hate it. Then I was sort of okay, well, you know what I don't hate? I don't hate the fact that there's a lot of scholarships and there's a lot of cool opportunities. So I'm gonna make the most out of my university experience, and I'm gonna do like Erasmus. I'm gonna try to do a lot of projects. I'm gonna get every single student part-time job that I can. So I got a part-time job in British Council. I was invigilating exams. I was like grading what is it called? Like I even forgot what it's called. IELTS exams.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then I like through this sort of like exchanges and projects, and I got really interested in like peace and reconciliation in the Balkans and blah blah blah. I found my way back to research, and I realized that I always loved research and writing. I just really don't like French grammar. Like I really don't like French grammar, and I don't want to be teaching it. I don't want that to be my life. But I was like, damn, I have a scholarship. I have if I quit my bachelor's now, I won't have like a full scholarship. I don't think my
Mm.
parents can pay for that. So now I'm stuck with this stupid what do I do now? So I was kind of like, okay, well, I'll do all kinds of like internships and exchanges and all that stuff. And for my master's, I want to do something more interesting. I want to do something connected to like peace and reconciliation in the Balkans and Eastern European studies, something like that. Why is Eastern Europe so weird? Is Eastern Europe weird actually? Is there an East and West? What's the story with all of this, right? Um, and then the pandemic started, and now I'm studying authoritarianism. So that was how I
Logical.
ended up doing a PhD. It was really like a roundabout way. Like I really didn't start off being like, you know what, this is my topic. And
Mm.
like I really think that when we finished high school at like 18, 19, I don't know anyone who was at like 18, 19 being like, I want to be a professor. I kind of got to that point maybe when I was 26 that I realized that I would like to be a professor. So really wasn't something that came to me immediately, and it wasn't really like a straightforward path. Like I woke up and I woke up when I was 12 and I said I'm going to be a professor, and I worked towards it.
So is that what your goal is to become a professor?
I would love to, but as we all know, this is like I can say that's my goal and that's my desire, but it's really not just something that I can like manifest into existence. There's a lot of obstacles to that career.
No,
Um
focus on the manifesting. Don't focus on the obstacles.
like that is my sort of dream job that I would like to have, but at the same
Hmm.
time it's like I'm well aware that there's one professorship in social sciences a year or something, and I'm well aware that because of the way the world is, there's a lot more qualified people that are going to go
Mm.
for the same entry level job. Like we all know what's going on in the US and in the UK, and where you're going to get pre-made professors going for entry level jobs,
Yep.
and you're just fresh out of a degree, and you can't compete with someone who has a lot more experience than you just by virtue of being born before you.
Yeah. 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 Well, we're gonna stay positive.
Yeah, this is like my dream, but I'm working on it. Whether it happens or not, I
Yeah.
don't know.
So, okay, so your PhD topic, you're talking about autocracies, specifically what kind of autocracies?
Specifically the counterintuitive ones, because 10 years ago, there was a lot of studies done on like that liberal democracies, established democracies, have never slid into an autocracy. They might have been close, they might have been flawed democracies for a minute, but we've never seen something that in political science they call liberal democracy, which is a democracy that has respect for rule of law, human rights, so in theory.
Mhm.
um, and these democracies were considered immune to such changes. And there's even studies done like, okay, when within 200 cases of democratic backsliding, dramatic democratic backsliding only happened in countries that had flawed democracy, never in a country that had established democracy for many, many years, many decades, procedures, and so on and so forth. And then 2010s happened.
Mm.
And suddenly there was books written about how Hungary and Serbia, for example, will never backslide into an autocracy because they're so close to the West that it's super counterintuitive and doesn't make any economic sense, and there's no incentive. There's no such
Mm.
incentive for such countries to become autocracies because there's the EU, and the EU is a union of democracies. So why would you want to be an autocracy when there's so many clear benefits, economic benefits, to being a part of the EU? You can't be within the EU and an autocracy. Surprise, surprise!
Surprise, surprise, humans like to take control when they shouldn't.
Surprise, surprise! So basically, until 10 years ago or so, most studies were like, no way, no way.
Hmm.
It's not gonna happen. Statistically improbable. Never happened in the history of time, ever. And then now studies are turning more towards like, hang on a second, actually, we might have been wrong about that because the reasons why it hasn't happened were kind of arbitrary.
Hmm.
So there's one book, oh, what is it called? Oh my god, I forgot. I think it's called something like The End of Democracy. I don't know. I'll find it later. But basically in that book, the guy, it's about two, it's by two guys. They're very important. I'm calling them guys as if they're not like professors somewhere. But at this point they're guys to me because I've been just reading
Yeah,
so much.
literally.
Um so they're saying basically like in the 20th century there was Ford. And Ford was kind of like a very similar personality to one we should not name right now, but
Hmm.
Orange Man.
Hmm.
A very, very similar personality. He was a millionaire, billionaire. He had his own like media company. He had his own newspapers. He was considered as a really, really good savvy businessman, and he was somebody who wasn't in politics, didn't have an established personality in politics, but wanted to go into politics. And a lot of people were taking that as like, see, that's because the US has checks and balances. He wasn't allowed to become a candidate by either the Democrats or Republicans because nobody took him seriously because he wasn't a politician. And nobody was going to offer him because you need to have a certain amount of support from the Congress to even get a nomination and
Hmm.
so on. And at the time, nobody was going to give it to Ford, not Republicans, not Democrats. And that was going to kind of considered as like, oh, look, well, US has all these like checks and balances. But now looking back, people are like, that was actually quite arbitrary because like it could have gone either way.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, that's
it could
wild
have,
because like I mean the US Constitution is set up so that to keep career politicians out of the presidency, or supposed to. Like it's supposed to be someone who's just a civilian. Like they're not supposed to have military service, they're not supposed to be a politician. And then look at our list of who's become president. But then on top of that, we've now had what, two celebrities be president? We had Reagan and now this one, and just like when will we learn? When will we learn?
yeah, yeah. So it's you know, people are now looking back on. It was also considered that these regime transitions, that both of them, both regime transition to democracy and regime transition to autocracy happen like you can pinpoint it to one particular event. And you can say like, you know what, it was
Hmm.
so people used to think that the revolution in Portugal in 70s, that's like, wow, that's the moment where countries woke up and said, you know what, democracy is not so bad. We're gonna fight autocracies. So that's like the theory that you can pinpoint it to like one moment, or Eastern European countries like follow the Berlin Wall. You can
Hmm.
pinpoint it. That was a tipping point, and after that is going to be, upward mobility towards democracy. Like, or, in reverse, when I'm not sure if I can say the name so we don't get banned somewhere, but the German mustache man.
Yeah.
When he started burning stuff, people are like, okay, well, that was definitely a tipping point. From then on, it was going to get worse and worse, right? Um, but the problem with like these new transitions is that there's no like one moment.
Hmm.
Like, we can
Yeah.
say maybe January, but, like, even before January, you had Orban and Vucic in Hungary and Serbia. And with Orban and Vucic, there was not like a one moment that enabled Orban. Yes, maybe you can say like it was in Hungary they had a big scandal where some tapes were leaked and a lot of people lost trust in the socialists that were in power because there was like corruption, and you can say like, okay, that was the point that really enabled him to come to power, but that's not really a global point. Like back in the
Hmm.
day, people were like, okay, we can trace all of this back to Portugal, we can trace all of this back to the Berlin Wall. And that was like the argument against saying that this is a trend. Democracies becoming autocracies. That was an argument against it. Like, okay, but what was the point? Like, what was the tipping point? What can we say
Hmm.
is like we can trace it all back to that? Well, my argument is that it's the 2008 financial crisis, but um that's not yet an acceptable explanation that
Yeah.
we can all agree on.
I mean, yeah, it's really fascinating talking about this because I mean, as I was reading the articles that you sent, it got to a point where I was like, I don't feel like I need to read these articles because I lived these articles. Like they all of these things that they were saying, I was like, this is too close to home. Like literally been there, done that the last
And
20
mind you,
years,
most of them are from 2010s.
which is wild. Like the one of them was from 2019, and I'm like, and you're not going to mention what's going on at home in this one? Hmm. But I mean, at the same time, I can understand academics wanting to be very careful with what they say and who they say and how they say it, because funding can get pulled, as we have seen. Funding it can pulled at any time, and so it puts academia on a knife's edge of just, we want to find the theory that's going to help people, but you can't help people who don't want to be helped.
Also, you can't really put stuff like that in an article. Like, mind you, if it was like published in 2019, it was probably written in 2018. And then
Hmm.
even if you have speculations of your own, like a peer reviewer or an editor will be like, well, that's a speculation.
Yep.
Like,
Well,
that's not
yeah.
something we can analyze it as of now.
Yeah. It's you. Yeah. Oh, that's frustrating. And you can't even posit it as like, no, it's a thought experiment. But
Yeah, yeah. But
it's
in
I it's just frustrating that you can see all of the signs, but you can't call it out because it hasn't happened. And so as academics, you're required to report as close as what we can get to facts, supposedly. Like that's as unbiased as possible is the goal. So yeah, you can't sit around saying we predict this, but you could sneakily push your article towards a journalist and be like, hmm. You're allowed to
Yeah.
speculate because that's your job.
Yeah, like usually people do that in books, and
Yeah.
I personally prefer for my topic reading books, but that's not really something in my field that's
Mhm.
normal. Like it's
Yeah.
more you're nudged more in the direction of citing more articles.
Yeah.
You should cite more articles, cite more journals. But I found that in this particular field, books can be more beneficial as academics also have the freedom to end it with some sort of reflection. So usually in
Mhm.
books, they would end it with something like, "Well, as we're writing this, this is what I'm watching."
Yeah.
So although I said that this didn't happen, I'm leaving it to the possibility that, like a book that I read that was written in 2016 basically said like, okay, well, we didn't find statistically any cases of like radical regime transition from democracy to autocracy. However, as we're writing this, we're literally watching, Hungary, Serbia,
Mhm.
USA, and so on. Therefore, just because we didn't find it in 2016 doesn't mean that this will never happen.
Yeah.
um but you can't really do that in an article. In an article that's sort of like, okay, well, you also have like
Yeah.
5,000 words, and you have to
Hmm.
like really stick to like, these are my figures, these are my facts, these are my findings. Goodbye.
Well, and it does seem like there's kind of been a domino effect of a lot of that happening across the globe. Like it's I clearly am bringing up the US because that's my experience, but like you said, it's happening in Hungary, it's happening in Serbia. It's happened all across the globe recently. The UK is slowly falling into disarray as well. Like all of these well-established republics and democracies just tumbling one right after the other. And it's in for me, and this is pure speculation based on my research, but for me, I almost wonder if that's because of social media. And not saying social media is evil and it's causing us to go off the deep end, but it's because we when social media was given to the public, we didn't realize what it was really being used for behind the scenes in terms of data collection and the ability to push agendas via algorithms and things like that. We weren't aware because it was new. Um and so while we were using it to have fun and post pictures and create some kind of global community, behind the scenes they were filling in little boxes and saying, cool, I could sell this to this person, I could sell this to this person, and this person paid me a lot, so I'll push this content to this group of people. And it just made all of this much more possible and made the people in power more empowered to do these things.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of questions about what is a public sphere and what is
Yeah.
a media system. Because, like, back in the day, every country had, like, well, I'm speaking from the European experience here. Like, we're talking about 80s, where a lot of European countries had like one or two channels
Yeah.
each. And then you come to the end of 80s, you have cable TV. In America, you had cable TV way before us. So you had all
Hmm.
this like choice and everything. And suddenly you're consuming stuff across the border as well, because like suddenly, in the Balkans, Spanish telenovelas were extremely popular, like Mexican telenovelas. Oh my god, like I actually understand Spanish. I can't speak it because I haven't like spent enough time there. It's purely because of telenovelas. Like, and then the question is like this influence, and what is a media system within a country. If you
Hmm.
have a generation, first of all, like I didn't learn English like late in life. I learned English from Cartoon Network as well. So
Yeah.
like, what is a media system when you have a generation of people who speak English and Spanish now,
Hmm.
never having left never having left south
Yeah.
of Europe? um what is a media system then? And then you put internet in that, where you have communities that are like, you and me are talking now, we if there was an internet, like, I don't know if we would have met, where we would have met,
Yeah.
and so on. So that's on one side. Then on the other is sort of like this. Well, I would always say, for me, everything goes back to capitalism, and
Yeah.
how capitalism requires this infinite growth, and how we constantly need to be producing more, selling more, consuming more. Um, and I don't know, like, there's definitely that transformation that digital media brought that um, hurt the trust in
Hmm.
media, because when you say media, for older people, they're still watching TV.
Yeah.
They're still consuming
Newspapers,
newspapers, they're still watching TV.
listening
But a
to
bit of that,
radio.
exactly, but a bit of that trust has been broken by social
Mhm.
media. And the reason for that is there's a lot of studies where in some countries, um the sensationalist media, they intentionally make it more sensational. The same story will
Mhm.
intentionally be more sensational for their online portal as opposed to their news,
Yeah.
like a printed version. um there's definitely something there about the digital media promoting that, and also the fact that a lot of journalists lost their jobs with the digital revolution, because it was like, okay, well, I probably don't need to print this at all because
Mm.
not many people are going to read it. And then there's pressure to produce more with less money. So there's all these things coming together where the we have so much, but suddenly we have so little at the same time.
Mm.
Um, so there's definitely a bit of like digital revolution that sped up this process.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
going
I
back
think
to the
that's
financial crisis, so bankruptcy of a lot of
yeah.
outlets, and but I do think that the reason why Orban and Vucic exist is purely because of this understanding that what is the public sphere and what is the public good. And in liberal democracies, which is tied to like the liberal theory and in general, like liberalism and capitalism, is
Mm.
like that view is that sort of like best things win in the market.
Mhm.
Market will regulate itself. You Journalism and media is not there for the public good per se. They're not there to promote they're not there to promote good options, good democratic options. They're more there to promote consumerism, and
Mhm.
the best outlet will win because it's the most interesting, the most entertaining, and so on and so forth. And these guys kind of took that understanding and subverted it even more.
Mm.
But that was like because it was allowed to be subverted because like we said, okay, may the best company win. And then you have like the public broadcaster going bankrupt, you have independent media going bankrupt because it's like they're not the best, but they might be serving the purpose of public good, but that's not, you know, high on the priority list. They're not selling.
Yeah.
Um, so these guys kind of subverted that and used that to take independent outlets that had a reputation of promoting news and being like independent of the government and promoting the news. They used businesses from their friends, put pressure on these independent outlets. These independent outlets get sold, completely change their staff and content. The regular people don't really catch on to it. They're still watching the same channel, but suddenly it's propaganda.
Yeah.
And all of that is allowed because of these like the scarcity of resources, not prioritizing the public sphere as a public good, but more like what can I sell?
Mm.
Um,
Well, and media sources are also less they're less transparent now, and by that I mean because things went online, you're able to hide behind an algorithm so people aren't aware that certain things are humans enacting things on them. It's they just think it's the computer that's sending them information, good or bad. And so the human element is subverted there. But then even in legitimate news sources, bylines are getting erased. Like there's so many things that sometimes I'll like click on a BBC article to see like what's going on currently because they have like live updates and there's no byline. So I don't know who is updating this timeline. I don't know whose agenda is being pushed. I don't know why certain news is being put on the front page in one country and not on another country, because we don't have that we're not able to hold people accountable because we don't know who's putting the news out there.
yeah,
Like sure, it might be Al Jazeera that's posting it, but if there's no byline, then there's no responsibility. um
yeah,
and so the media has become a lot more opaque because the internet has allowed them to do so, and people don't question it. They just assume if it's up and it's on a reputable website, then it must be good, rather than double
yeah,
checking
yeah,
sources.
yeah, yeah. And it takes a long time for people to catch up that uh this particular outlet might have completely changed the structure, the owner, everything.
Hmm.
And then, as you said, regulation on social media. it's not as regulated as other media is and was.
Hmm.
Like, I don't know if we talked, I think we talked about it maybe last week when did I mention War of the Worlds, about regulation? So
I love
back
War of the
in,
Worlds, though.
do you know that
Oh, of
that's
course.
the stream was the reason why we have like disclaimers, this is an ad, this is.
I didn't know that, but I'm
So I
I
don't
got
know
too
the
excited there.
year.
I didn't know what how to form a sentence. I love War of
I
the
don't know
Worlds.
the year, but Orson Welles was reading it
Hmm.
on the radio. I think it was in New York.
It
I'm not sure. We
it
can Google this.
it wasn't even just reading. That was a fully. It was like a radio play. So they had actors playing different characters, and they had sound effects and.
Yeah. Well, people thought it was real.
Hmm.
People thought that really aliens are attacking, and they started rioting in
Hmm.
somewhere in America. This was like long ago, and this is the reason why like broadcasters and organizations came together and they said, okay, listen, we can't do that. On from now on, we have to be clear, like, this is news, this is an
Yeah.
ad, this is an opinion, this is now we're playing music. We have to be super super clear about segments, and we have to say, like, now this is a play, and then this is news.
Yeah.
um but on social media, that line is completely blurred. You have someone saying, like, I absolutely love this cream. And then they don't say it's an ad, but it was sent to them and they're supposed to say it. They're supposed to say they love the cream. And you
Hmm.
might think, wow, well, she has like skin like me, her skin's also dry, my skin's also dry. Uh, and then
Well, and I in my communications degree, there was so much emphasis on, well, the people who are consuming social media also are have agency, and we need to keep that in mind too. And I'm like, yeah, but there's only so much agency you can have when you're unaware of where your information is coming from. So you're
yeah,
still being bamboozled because and believing things that you shouldn't, just because you aren't given that chain of command. You don't know where things are coming from. And so even the smartest people, there are still times where I'll look at something and sit there for a second and be like, is this AI? Like, I truly can't tell. And you really have to sit with it for a second. And most people aren't doing that. Most people will just take it in and scroll past.
yeah.
And it's so, the regulation is just off the charts, and we we missed the train for regulating these things.
Yeah, but I mean, I really hope that we get back on the train and
I hope so
regulate
too.
some of it. But like, yeah, I totally know what you're saying. Like, my grandma worked as a proofreader for a publishing house in what was Yugoslavia at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um and she's a very smart woman. Like, she was the director of proofreaders at some point of her life. She retired. Like, she's a very very smart woman. And when I was home, she's showing me these AI babies making food, and she's like, "Look how cute these babies are." I'm like, "That's AI." And she's like,
Yeah.
"What's AI?" And I'm like, "Grandma, that's like somebody programmed it to do that. That's not a real baby." She's like, "What do you mean? It's so cute." I was like, "That's not a real baby."
Oh my
And this is a
god.
smart woman. This
Yeah.
is a smart woman. She has Facebook. She has Instagram. Like, she's not like, I know she's 83, but she's still like, she's there. She's
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with her brain. Um, and yeah, she fell for AI babies 100%.
I mean,
Um,
but yeah, the point being that one of the articles that you sent me talked about competitive authoritarianism, and how it doesn't need to be this sudden revolutionary moment that changes things. It's these subtle things, like someone just stepping a little bit out of line, just over and over and over, and testing the waters over and over until that line shifts, and then the line shifts, and then the line shifts, and all of a sudden you're 6 feet away from where you were supposed to be. because this person has been pushing the limits, and i- by the time that happens, all of a sudden other people have noticed that that person got away with it, so they start doing the same thing, and the media outlets are in on it. And something there was a section in that article that talked about how elections are still generally free from fraud, but missteps are not corrected, so they become big issues. And that's where I see the parallels being, in that we've seen it before in the US. This isn't the first time that this has happened. I mean, thinking back to 2000 with the election of George W. Bush, he did not win the popular vote. Al Gore won the popular vote, but George W. Bush became president. So we saw that first little like glint of something being wrong. And then in 2016, again, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, but Trump became president. And no one said anything again. Like it wasn't corrected. So we see these little, like, just trying the line and trying the line, and it happened again, and he got elected again, and now he's joking with Zelensky at a summit about how he's going to suspend the 2028 elections. So like it's not these big swings, it's little steps over and over and over again that are then reinforced by media outlets. I mean, it's not just a single media outlet, it's pervasive across the internet and across
Also the
the
apathy.
television news. Yeah.
The apathy that it creates, like if there's so many small things over and over and over, eventually the like an average person just says, you know what, I just won't stop. I'll just stop watching the news. You know what, doesn't concern me anymore. I'll I can't I'll just stop. Like every day there's something. For the love of God, every day there's something.
Hmm.
Um and just creates this apathy, and these systems they thrive on this apathy as well. They thrive on, it's not just about not getting the popular vote. They usually don't get popular votes. They usually get elected on, this and this
Hmm.
technicality, and then it's
Yep.
all downhill from there. But they don't want the
Gerrymandering
popular.
the election lines like they're doing right
Yeah,
now. It's
they don't
yeah.
want the popular vote. That's not the point. They
Yeah.
want, they have the supporters that they have, which is probably, like, if we're guesstimating, in every country, let's say it's around 20% of the population that genuinely support them. I fully
Yeah.
believe that they do have around
Yes.
20% of genuine support that we can't ignore. These people exist.
Mm.
But the rest of the stuff is more up to, like, creating this apathy, like, oh, what does I can't change anything at this point.
Mm.
What now? Like, it's too far gone. I'm just gonna clock in, clock out. I'm gonna,
Well,
do
and
my own thing.
something that I find frustrating, specifically with this system, with the US's system, is the way it was set up was created to breed that apathy. Like the way that the presidential elections occur is not a direct democracy. We have an electoral college, and it's designed specifically to make us feel powerless. So even though we're voting, we don't feel like we actually have the power to vote. So then when it comes time for someone like this to come along and whether or not you believe it was rigged, to do something with the election, uh we just kind of accept that that's what's going to happen, and we can't control it because the system was invented to make us feel that way.
Yeah, but there's also, like, the other side of that story, which happens over and over in most of my cases that I'm analyzing. Not just, I'm not analyzing the U.S. yet, but
No, no, no. Yeah, yeah.
in
Again, I'm
all of
just bringing
these.
that one up because it's
Yeah,
what
no,
I'm
but it's
aware
very
of.
similar. It's a very, very similar pattern, all, everywhere. There's also the other side of the coin where the previous party that was dominant. Like, for example, this is not so straightforward in the US, but in European countries, there was always like, in Hungary it was the Socialist Party, in Serbia it was the Democrats and the Liberals. Um, and on their part, there are these little systemic problems that in the moment they're in power, it benefits them not to change it so much. They are
Mm-hmm.
maybe doing they are maybe doing like grand scale corruption. Like, I don't think any of them became billionaires or anything,
Mm-hmm.
but like now in Hungary and Serbia, you definitely have more millionaires than ever. And you have people who went from owning like a gas fitting business to being the second richest person in the country in a
Yeah.
decade, like insane stuff. But the opposition, as they call them, they always call them like the opposition later, although these people haven't been in power for 10 to 15 years at this point. But when the opposition was in power, they were kind of like, everyone was hinting at this could be a problem, and they were kind of like, ah, no, it's grand. Like, for example, on the public broadcasters, which are very popular in Europe, usually they favor the ruling party. And
Mm-hmm.
when Democrats were the ruling party, they were like, "Ah, no, it's grand," like it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh well, don't you think we should like maybe get some quotas about coverage? Nah, nah, let's not put that in writing. Let's not put that in writing because
Yeah.
like I like the coverage as it is, as if I'm being honest. And then, going
Yeah.
back to Democrats in America, they're like, well, if we kind of fixed up about the system, then maybe third party candidates could see the light of day. Like,
Mm.
that wouldn't
Eh.
be great for me either.
Yeah.
So let's not put that in writing. I'm sure it won't be a problem later.
Mhm. Well,
Um,
and one of the articles was talking about how multi-party regimes work over time to close the gaps between the parties, so eventually it's no longer a multi-party regime, so that illusion of choice becomes smaller and smaller, so that you're really just choosing between two people that believe the same thing and are going to do the same thing. And then it just opens that door for the autocracy to occur, because the choice hasn't existed for so long that the whole system is working for those in power rather than for the people who need the help, and are the ones that the people in power are supposed to be working
Yeah,
for.
and this is why I think for me, a lot of it goes back to the 2008 financial crisis. This was the point where this system of like, sure, will be grand, we'll fix it later. Don't worry about it. It's not so bad, guys. Come on. And that's when the problems of regular people become too hard to ignore. And
Mm,
people just want a change. And this is the moment where I feel like people are in every country on this planet are susceptible to doing something that they know is maybe not the best option, just to feel something, just to feel like, okay, well, I won't change no matter what. I won't
yeah.
change no matter, like, I just need not to look at the same five people. Uh and this is where these guys step in, and they promise the world to the most vulnerable parts of our societies, and they never deliver. Never in any of these countries have they delivered. In Serbia, it's the pensioners. In Hungary, it's also like the pensioners.
Mhm.
In America, there's so much poverty.
It's the
It's
yeah, it's literally everyone at this point.
yeah, yeah.
But
And
yeah, it's the poor, the uneducated, the undereducated.
yes,
Um,
yes,
yeah.
in like Serbia and Hungary, there's this like transit when these countries transitioned from socialism to capitalism. In socialism, a lot of people could retire quite early. Like my granny retired when she was only 50 or something, and
Wow.
she had a very decent pension for the time. Like even now, her pension is the average salary of which is not much. It's like the average salary right now is around 600 euro, but like, it's that's her pension. So
Yeah.
like not so bad, but when capitalism came, a lot of these people that retired even earlier than 50, and that happened, were suddenly told go back to the workforce, but they had no
Yeah.
skills, no job experience. And of course, they ended up in very, very bad positions. When 2008, 2010s came along, these guys were like, I'm gonna restore that glory. I'm gonna be the one. Orban was like, I'm gonna be the one to restore full employment. He didn't,
Hmm.
but he did give like small jobs to these people who had early pensions and then had to go back to the workforce and so on, and they like cleaning jobs and so on. And that sounds great until you realize and everything else that was lost
Yeah.
in the process. And in Serbia, this sort of mentality of like scarcity was created where these people who were so poor had a job that was putting food on the table, and they were going to vote. They're going to vote. Some of them are going to vote for Vucic forever.
Hmm.
Um, because and it doesn't matter that a job is shitty. It doesn't matter that they barely have enough to put the food on the table. They look around and they see those who are not loyal to the man. They don't have a
Hmm.
job at all.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
ah,
It
and
makes I mean, it makes sense. And I mean, you even look at situations like something that I've been likening the US to recently is Juan Perón in Argentina, and how he used his wife as a distraction from the things that he was doing. and and to this day she's still seen as a saint because she was going out and giving money to poor people, and she was making sure that schools had things, and she was working a feminist agenda and all of these things. And like, you, it's so funny, you read her Wikipedia page and it makes her sound like this absolute saint of a person, and then you take into context what her husband was doing at the same time and realize she was a distraction because he knew that he couldn't create jobs for people. So he sent his wife out to just hand out free money and to make people think like they cared and think that good things were coming because there was money coming to them, and didn't see the long-term ramifications and want to change the system because they were getting those short-term uh loans and those short term, that just the little bit of short term happiness.
exactly, but
um
this is the new autocracy. That is
yeah.
like that is what people are yet to completely wake up to. Like they're expecting this moment of gulags, of concentration camps. They're
Mhm.
expecting the moment where a nuke goes off. It's not gonna happen.
Well, and that's why in the
It's
US we're trying to use that language to wake people up, like the camps that they're putting people in Florida, and the camps that there are people in on the Mexican border that have been there since like 2015. Like, the we're trying to change that language and say, no, these are concentration camps, you don't understand, this is just the modern
yeah,
version of it, just to get
yeah,
people to wake up and see. Because calling something a prison or calling something a camp doesn't do anything, you have to equate it to that thing that they see as bad, um
yeah.
because they're
No, I
not
mean the
seeing it.
U.S. is a special case because I think you guys actually are close to having that.
Having a full autocracy, it's not even
Yeah,
hidden.
yeah, you're close to having that, but it's also like that's the problem with these things because people are like, well, as if it doesn't if it doesn't get to that, it's not bad. But like, if I have to have a party membership to be a janitor in a high school, it's pretty bad. Like, what do you mean? There's not a public
Hmm.
competition for me to do something like be a janitor in a high school. And that's the reality of a lot of people in Serbia and Hungary. Like, there, the institutions and the industry and everything is captured to a point where like you need loyalty to be a cleaner in McDonald's. And it's like, what the hell? I mean, you shouldn't need loyalty for those things. You should just come to your work and be a cleaner in
Yeah.
McDonald's and go back to your house and live a life. Like, it's, you don't need to bow to the president just to clean a toilet. Like, it's
Yeah.
crazy. Those are also modern forms of dictatorship, and also kind of like, even I would say, to a wage slavery.
Hmm.
Because like, your opportunities of having a decent life and providing for your family are constrained by your views. And now, sure, you can say, you know what, all it takes is to praise the Lord, and I'll be fine. But then,
But that's
it's not
what people said
really,
during World War II is like, okay,
it's not
well,
sustainable.
if you just say you're not Jewish, then you're going to be fine. And it's like, but that shouldn't be a
Yeah,
line. That shouldn't even be
yeah,
a thought of a line.
nope, no, it's like, that's already like, it's entering your private life, your everything,
Yeah.
and it's messing with the system. But yeah, I think that's the problem, that why it's gone on for so long. And in Hungary, it's been going on since 2010, in Serbia since 2012, in Poland since 2015. Not like, it hasn't reached the boiling point of Serbia and Hungary
Mm.
and Poland yet. But these processes have been going on for so long, that, and because there was no point when you saw, like, I don't know, mass book burning, people being dragged out of their workplaces, like, you did see but you didn't see, and then the needles moved. And there's also other
Yeah.
studies where sometimes they escalate to de-escalate to look like heroes.
Mm.
So sometimes they would even like, sometimes in the Balkan context, this is what happens a lot. They make threats about a new war in the region, and then you really think you're like minutes away from a war, and then they de-escalate it, and now they look like saints. Now it's like, well, I'm the only thing standing between this and the war, but you fabricated that. Like, you
Yeah.
fabricated that. But I think what these new autocrats have realized, and I'm not sure that the orange man has realized this yet, really, but I think what the autocrats in Europe have realized is that pure force won't do it.
Mm.
Uh, you also have to sweeten the pot a little bit by, well, I got you a job. Well, people who don't support me don't have jobs.
Hmm.
So
I
think
mean,
about
if
that.
you look at World War II, he wasn't just all force put people in camps. This is all I'm doing. He commissioned the Volkswagen. He had someone invent the Autobahn for him. He magnetic tape that goes into cassette tapes was invented to record his speeches. Like, he was giving back culturally at the same time as he was taking people's rights, as a way to distract. And that's something that I've been saying since the beginning with this current regime is he's so bad at distractions. He's so good at distractions, but so bad at distractions. Like, the people that are smart enough to see them, it it's not a distraction whatsoever, because we're just like, who cares about that? Because you're doing this at the same time. Like, clearly you're trying some sleight of hand, but those who aren't educated enough aren't seeing that. And that's where the frustration is coming in, because like the whole thing with having Elon Musk in the White House and then kicking him out and making it messy online. I'm There's no doubt in my mind that was completely fabricated. Like, I doubt they actually hated each other. Like, they just gave enough dirt on each other on social media that it played into our desire to have parasocial relationships with celebrities. Like, it was a distraction from what was
Yeah.
actually happening. Um, so like, sure, in America, we're not getting the fun, like, oh, we get a new car, oh, we get theater, oh, we get these fun free money things thrown at us. We're not
They're
getting
not
that,
getting it in
but we're
Europe
getting
either.
these, like, we're getting these like parasocial celebrity relationships and billionaires getting married in Venice and like all of these kinds of
People
things that are
simping for
distracting us.
billionaires.
Literally. Yeah. So it's the same thing. It's just it's the American twist on it.
Yeah, it's like it's pretty much the same, but there's a lot of modern twists on it. Like for example, I think the newer autocracies, like some of them, like for example, Serbia is very which is weird to say. It's a very inclusive autocracy. It's more like you're with us or you're against us. When you're with us, you can be gay, you can be Roma, you can be black, you can be Asian, you can be whoever you want to be. We don't care. Whatever religion you are, whatever race you are, whatever is your sexuality, as long as you're with us, you're with us. If you're against us, everything will be used against you. Everything, every single
Mm,
thing will be used against you. But they also had like the openly gay prime minister. And in the country, there's no laws like uh it's not legal for same sex marriages are not legal. You can maybe get legal you can get married elsewhere, but not legalize and then legalize it in the country.
mhm,
But you can't get married in the country, and you can't adopt. Like adoption is very difficult in general, but same sex couple adoption is like impossible. There's the prime minister had a surrogate. There's no laws for surrogates, like for any form of partnerships. Surrogacy is not
funny how that
legal.
happens.
So the openly gay prime minister had a surrogate child, and then one of the singers who won the Eurovision in 2007, she's also openly gay. She was allowed to adopt. Um, and so this is very much like, a weird autocracy, because you wouldn't think of these things when you think of autocracy, but it's
Mhm.
really you're with us or you're against us. If you're with us, reluctantly, you'll get some sort of a mundane job, cleaner, janitor, whatever. If you're with us and you're like fully ready to like go on TV, shout at the top of your lungs how you love the president, how you think the sun shines out of his ass. You'll get 30 apartments, 3 apartments, this company, that company. You're gay, you can marry, you can do whatever you want. Like we don't care. Like it's you're with us, you're on top. You're
Wow.
against us, well, sucks to be you.
That would never work for me because I don't care who's in authority. I will always have problems.
Yeah, but it's like you wouldn't expect that from an autocracy to be so rewarding and diverse
Yeah.
in a way.
I
Um,
mean, that just sounds like a different form of distraction.
yeah, exactly. You're with us or you're against us. But I do think, as you said, dictators always sweeten the pot in some way. There's always like, oh wow, now we have autobahns, now we have this. Um, but I do think now they are, because of the scarcity that was created after the last global financial crisis, they're dangling like bits, they're like
Hmm.
they're really not giving these massive projects. They're like,
No.
hey, do you want to
Well,
be a janitor?
yeah. Well, and I think that's why in the US it's things like we're going to leverage parasocial relationships rather than here we're going to help you climb the corporate ladder because they know people don't want to climb the corporate ladder anymore. That's not on in the cards for any of us, but we're completely okay with scrolling Twitter and or X. We're completely okay with scrolling TikTok and getting in on these relationships between the politicians, watching MTG argue with AOC. I mean, we even have nicknames for them. That's how invested we are in this distraction,
Yeah.
while without actually looking at who's voting for what. We're just a long party line saying, great, I love this person because they say they're for me. It's like, great, but they're also billionaire that's making money off of this and this and this. Like this last week, there's
Yeah.
been, and I know this won't be current by the time the episode goes up, but this last week, people have been talking about Taylor Swift because she's dropping a new album, and people are, and there's like half the internet is like, "Yay, new Taylor Swift album," and the other half of the internet is like, guys, she's a billionaire, like, and her husband is a Republican, so clearly there's something going on here. Like, we can't just accept our celebrities giving us things anymore. Like, we have to question every kind of gift. Otherwise, we're going to take that last step into full dictatorship.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's also that like I think it's the reason why people form these relationships is because they still want to believe that you can pull yourself by your bootstraps, and they
Yep.
still want to believe that they can become that exception. Like, I can also become Taylor Swift. I can become Elon Musk. Like, they want to believe in these things, like, oh, if I put in hard work and things happen for me, tomorrow I can be Mr. Beast or something like that.
Yeah.
Um but the reality is, I don't I don't think so,
I don't see it happening.
and even if you do, it's probably just like, that one person a year or something that gets pulled up by the industry so they can go like, "See, still happens."
Chapel Roan.
Yeah,
Look, a
still
lesbian. She's your
happens.
pop star. Like, take her. Have it. Merry Christmas.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah,
I mean, I didn't just call down the wrath of the Chapel Roan fans on myself. But
and
seriously,
Swifties.
like, it's, I mean, whatever. Swifties can get mad at me. I don't care. Go for it. I also don't like Beyonce because, oh, she's also a billionaire. Married to a billionaire from a billionaire family. So like,
Yep.
same with Rihanna, also billionaire. Anyway, I could go on about that, but yeah, it's I'm glad you're studying it because we need people to put these things on paper.
Yeah, no, it's not the nicest topic, if I'm being honest, but I do feel like I feel like almost compelled to sort of put it into a perspective and patterns and give it names and be like, okay, well, this is not, because a lot of times we have the tendency to think of something in isolation. So when I started this thesis, everyone was saying, well, look, Hungary and Serbia, what they share is that they used to be socialist. So this must be some sort of a curse of post-socialist countries that haven't really established democracy fully and so on. Okay, well then how do you explain everything else? And how do you explain that they have so much in common regardless of socialist, post-socialist past? Um, and it's really, the arguments break down when you say, well, that just happened there because of that. Well, that just happened there because of that. And when you have 10 cases that are so similar, then you can't really keep saying, well, just happened there because of that. No, I we think there's something that's happening everywhere. It's not
Yep.
just there because of that. Um, and I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but for me, it's always, always goes back to capitalism and problems we haven't fixed in
Yep.
2008 that led to 2008, and they are looming.
Yep. 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 Capitalism.
I know people are gonna say, "Oh, that's a lazy," but it's not really that. You
Mm-mm.
know, it
Capitalism
is
ruins the party again.
it is it does ruin the party when you see. The problem is that we see democracy as tied to it intrinsically. Like, you can't
Mm-hmm.
have democracy without having the free market, and you can't have the free market without letting the market regulate itself. And then you always come back to this issue of like, okay, well, then Serbia is not an autocracy because there is the free market. No party is banned, no outlet is banned. What are we talking about?
But just because it isn't banned on paper doesn't mean that it's not actually
Yeah, but as long as
quietly
we see
banned.
democracy through the lens of intrinsically tied to the free market and the
Mm,
existence of capital and movement of capital, and best person wins, best ideas win, I don't think we'll ever be able to fully fix the situations that we have now. I think we'll always be doomed to have periods of authoritarianism, if not fully descend into it and maybe never fully recover. Um,
mhm.
if we if we don't divorce capitalism and democracy. That's
Yep.
just my 2 cents on it, because I think we need to have regulations on the market to have democracy, actually, because if you just believe fully in your heart that the market will regulate itself and somehow the best people always win, well, what if someone has the combined GDP of 5 countries at their disposal? Uh,
Yep.
how how do you win on the market against such a person when they can?
You don't. You don't. You can't. You really can't.
So I don't think we can have democracy and the idea that things will work out in the market without any interference. And then the problem is, okay, people will say, well, I don't want my government interfering in my economy, and that's okay. That's like a fair thing to say. But I also think, it goes back to like what we owe to each other. And the fact is that
Mhm.
the government is being paid from your taxes. So the government does owe you services and certain
Yep.
things. So you kind of need to have a government but I would love to say that we can be
Yep.
anarchists and we don't need a government, we can self-regulate and everything. I don't
Humans can't do that. No, we need
I
some form of
don't know.
structure.
When
I
there's
don't know what the
millions and
structure is,
millions,
but
then there's
yeah.
millions and millions of us, we probably can't. But I
It's
think there's
almost
also like,
it's almost like there shouldn't be 8 billion humans.
or there shouldn't be
It's
billionaires.
well that too. That too. But I'm not saying that we should kill off people. I'm just I'm just
Or there
saying
should
we as a species we're still tribe minded. We our brains haven't evolved, but somehow we're in a global community now. We are settled into these giant cities filled with millions of people. We've given our power to people who could purchase us and purchase everything that we do for the rest of our lives and have ceded that power to them to our detriment. So it's just like how do you leash a dog that's already run away from you?
Yeah, yeah, no, but also we need to like, what I think is a problem in a lot of Western societies, and that problem got exported to the east of Europe, and then it just made a really big mess of it. And I'm living in Ireland right now, and I can't believe the how capitalism goes into every pore of your
Mm,
daily life, even your family life. A lot of Irish people that I had like casual conversations with fully believe that the government doesn't owe them anything, although they pay one of the highest taxes in Europe on like private income. So they pay as much in income as the Germans, and they don't get free education, they don't get free healthcare here, they don't get anything really. And they pay as much taxes as Germans, and they're completely fine with it because they truly believe the government doesn't owe them anything. And they again believe that the best person wins, market self-regulates. Well, if the housing prices are so high, there must be a reason, there must be an actual value to the houses, there's supply and demand. And this is something that a lot, like I teach older people to use phones and stuff, and we sometimes get into these conversations. This is something Irish people believe, that I found a lot of them. And I think this is why I always go back to that damn capitalism, because I think that's the attitude of Western style liberal democracy, and that's been exported to the world as the model of democracy. And that's something we have to just like part with. We can't, this is not the democracy. That model is not a democracy. The government does owe you things, especially if they take 20% of what you earn every month, and 40 if you earn
And then
more.
don't
Like,
give you anything back. Yeah. Or what they give back or say they're giving back is a
the
military.
government does owe you things. It does owe you decent
Yeah.
life, regulation. It does owe you
Healthcare.
basic services. Um and this is the problem that I have with liberalism and democracy that's like completely tied to the free market. I don't think it will ever work. It will always lead to people like this. It will always lead to misery. It will always lead to winners and losers. And when you have winners and losers in the market, when you have you have people basically begging to even have a job to put food on the table, and there's no jobs, no food on the table, food's super expensive. You will always breed resentment in society, and people will not know who to turn to, and then they will listen to the first idiot who tells them they will fix it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, absolutely. I fully agree. Ooh, well,
And capitalism.
well, as a way to end this on a lighter note,
Also, I
um,
believe in democracy.
I don't know if I do, but
Do I
that's why
truly do? I
that's
think it's
why
a
I
very
focus on
nice.
people. That's why I focus on people rather than governments, because governments drive me crazy.
Truly do believe in the ideas of democracy. I just don't believe they can be executed along with capitalism.
I believe in the democracy that Aristotle came up with, and that philosophers should be the ones leading the government. which which would be a terrible idea because nothing would get done.
Probably. Yeah.
But that brings us to my synthesis questions. Yay! So this is the part of the podcast where I ask all of my guests the same 7 questions, and I want you to just answer with what comes to mind. I don't want you to think too hard about the answers. So the first question: what is your typical executive dysfunction and or rest day activity?
Animal Crossing.
That's a good
I
choice.
love Animal Crossing. And cozy games in general. Like when I need to turn off my brain, it's just cozy games. And this girl over here that I've been petting the whole time.
Puppy. I need to get a dog at some point because it will make my life so much better.
Yes. Yes.
What is your favorite setting for working on your research?
I really like working in the office of like PhD students. I really created like a really nice space there. And I feel like I can um really focus. The problem is that it's like 30, 40 minutes from where I live. So I really have to like plan ahead, get into the car and go there. But it's, yeah, the desk there, I've really made it cozy. And also when you get there, there's all these other PhD students working, so you feel stupid if you don't work as well.
Mhm.
So nice place.
What is one thing an advisor has told you that has stuck with you? And this could be good or bad.
Hmm. Well, I have a lot of. I would think I had a lot of stuff like in the back of my hand for that, but I forgot. I would say maybe like pick your battles. Like
Mm,
sometimes you're gonna have to say no to certain things, even if you think they're good opportunities. Um, you can't be everywhere all at once. So sometimes you're just gonna have to pick what you want to do. And also when you're picking, prioritize where you want to be. So for example, I have the tendency to stretch myself too thin. I like, I see a new project and I go like, wow, that's so interesting. I want to participate. Um, but the thing is, what gets you closer to your goal? And for me, my goal is I want to be a professor. And then at the
mhm.
end of the day, probably if I spend 2 months on some sort of a research project, I will not be closer to that. I'll be way closer if I actually finish my PhD.
Yeah.
So that's the conversation I had with my supervisor, and he was like, you know, when something comes your way, you need to sit down and think does this get me to where I want to be in life later? And like when I'm in the interview for a professorship, will they be like, oh, that lovely project you did 2 months ago? Will they be asking me about my thesis? And so prioritize and say no every now and then.
Yeah, absolutely. If you could choose any other area of research, what would you choose and why?
Oh my God. Well, I don't know, but I do think that I would choose something fun, but at the end of the day, I can't even imagine. Um, I can't even imagine how, like, everything in my life brought me to this depressing point where I'm at. But if like everything was roses and rainbows and there was no problems in the world that were compelling me to write about it, I would love to maybe research like TV shows and pop culture and like games and how we relate to pop culture messages and stuff like that. Like that would be super fun, but unfortunately, I can't stop thinking about what I'm thinking.
I mean, I am a huge fan of cultural studies, so I am right there with you. Um, who is one other academic whose research you really admire?
Oh, I was lucky to meet someone I cite a lot in my thesis, Seraphine Myers, and she's like she's a really cool person. And I really enjoy her research. She's one of the first people from the Institute of like the Varieties of Democracy Institute, which is like one of the biggest centers for studying democracy. Sure, their index has like some issues, but um her research really inspired me to look at democracy more systematically. And last year I was at a conference and she told me she liked my paper, and I've been on a high ever since. Every now and then when I'm low, I think of like Seraphine said she liked it.
Hey, that I would
So
live off of that for so long.
yeah,
The
no, I'm still living. Sometimes I'm just like, okay, well, you know what? She but, like, she really, really inspired me, to look at stuff more systematically, and her papers are
Mm.
really well written, well researched, and that's someone I admire.
What is a question you've never been able to answer?
Why? Why? Why all of this?
I really wonder
Um,
how many of my guests are going to say that. You're the second person so far that's just said why. And I honestly, I mean, it makes sense. I feel like as academics, that's why we get into this is we just want to
yeah.
know.
Yeah, no, like, I mean, I understand the how, but I don't understand fully why. The how is pretty clear at this point. The why I'm
So
not so
good.
sure
Yeah.
about, you know? Um
Why? Just why?
why and when is it over?
Oh my god. My favorite joke right now is I really hope that reincarnation isn't real, or if it is, that I get to opt out. Just please don't make me do this again right away. And if I
Yeah.
do have to, let me come back as a rock. Like just something peaceful in a stream somewhere that'll never be seen by a human.
Honestly, the best thing would be to come back as like a dog in like a no children to income household or something. Then you're
I'd
good.
take like a tree in the middle of a forest that no one knows about. Like just give me something like that. Something peaceful to breathe for a while. And then the last question, what font do you wish you could present your research in?
Like fonts, like
Yeah.
the no, I don't have a favorite one really. Like I I don't have one that I'm like, "Oh my god, this is the one." I do like I do think those like, the cutout ones that look like scrapbooking. They're really
Okay. Yeah,
cute,
yeah.
but I don't think you can read the whole paper like that. That would be just demented. It would look like a
Look like a serial killer note.
exactly. Exactly. So they're nice for headlines, but I don't know if I'd write the
Mm,
whole thing in it. So I I always just stick to like the main ones, which are like Times New Roman, Calibri, and Arial or something. Like
Yeah.
this is just I never strayed far. What do people usually say? Do people have fonts they
Oh,
love?
I've gotten a gamut of answers. It's been pretty exciting.
No, I
I
don't have.
personally like ones that look like a 1960s fantasy novel was written in it. Like I like something really nice
Oh,
and
like
like
cursive?
fancy, but not cursive. Like it's still a serif font, but like something a little bit like softer and a little nicer. Something that you could read an entire novel with and not feel like, oh my God, I'm tired of reading. Well, thank you so very much for being on the pod today.
Thank you.
It was a tough conversation, but I'm glad we had it. I'm glad I got a chance to sit down with you and hear what you had to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we will talk to you all later. Bye.
Yeah.
It was so lovely having a puppy pop in and out of that episode. I grew up with dogs, so not living with one myself, it's always nice to have one around, even on screen. So, a huge thank you to Ana for sitting down with me to talk about her research and to hopefully give some of us hope that these changes don't last forever, but also knowing that there are people out there researching these things so that we can better understand how they happen and make sure they don't happen in the future, or do our best to keep them from happening. Politics happen. I'm sorry. That's where we are. So thank you, Ana, so much for being on the pod, and thank you all for joining us. If you ever have any questions for myself or my guests, that could be about academia or life or what is our favorite color, or if you could pick, any questions, just literally any questions, please feel free to submit them on our Instagram at hypothesispod. That's at hypothesispod. You can also send them to us via email at podcasthypothesis@gmail.com. That's podcasthypothesis@gmail.com. Or you can submit audio questions to us on SpeakPipe at speakpipe.com/hypothesispodcast. That's speakpipe.com/hypothesispodcast. And if you do submit an audio message, please make sure you're in a quiet space where we can hear you easily, and keep your questions to about 30 seconds or less. You can also find all the articles related to this episode on Substack. That's iramcintosh.substack.com. You can also find the video and audio versions of those there, as well as the links to all of those articles. So please be sure to follow all of our socials. Again, the Instagram is at HypothesisPod. You can also find my Instagram at Ira A. McIntosh. That's IRAAMCINTOSH. Or you can find me on TikTok at The Gay Ethnographer. Actually, I'm at The Gay Ethnographer pretty much everywhere, even on YouTube. So we'll see whether or not those YouTube videos come soon. I promise they're in the works. We'll see. We'll see what my schedule looks like through the end of this year. And there's a forthcoming website as well. So be on the lookout for that. So please subscribe, rate, review. When you listen to the podcast, please download the episodes. It doesn't count for the numbers unless you download the episode before you listen to it. So please do that. And please share this podcast with your friends. The whole purpose of this podcast is education and making sure that people have access to information. So please be partners with us in that dissemination of information and share this podcast with your friends. Thank you so incredibly much for joining me this week. And I hope that we'll see you again next week. Let's fight misinformation together. Have a wonderful day and go read a book.